I'm with Drew Clayborn, who was kind enough to get up and be with me today. I wanted to ask you so many different questions when I met you a couple of weeks ago. But I figured let's do it in interview format on the podcast. So thank you for being here with me.
No problem. Thank you for having me. It was really nice meeting you the other day. And it was like, yeah, I had a ton of questions for you too. It seems like you really kill it.
Well, I want to start talking about content creation in a minute. Let's address what happened to you. When you were 14 years old, you did something that so many people have done, and yet you did it and it caused you complete paralysis, right?
Yep. So I was 15. I was a sophomore in high school. I was learning a backflip for the musical, which is funny because I was just like an off-season thing. I played basketball, football. I was in the marching band and played tuba. And then just like an off-season thing, I was like, all right, I like staying active. I wanted to do anything and everything all the time. So I joined the musical as a dancer because God knows I can't sing. So and it was the only thing going on besides like shitty ass baseball. But but I joined the musical and as a dancer, and it was Seussical. The musical is similar to like Dr. Seuss, Horton Hears a Who, that type of a musical. And they asked if anybody had any like special talents, and I suggested I could learn how to do a backflip. And yeah, so I was doing that, learning how to do a backflip for the musical with a buddy of mine. I was going to his dancing studio. I was learning how to do a backflip there. And then me and some friends were goofing in the hallway, and we thought we would do some backflips. And when I went to go attempt mine, I broke my neck, C1, C2. Yeah, and then woke up in the hospital, and then, yeah, that was all she wrote.
Your dad did an interview where he talked about like getting the call from the school. Like every time the school calls me, like my heart's in my throat every time because it's literally your worst nightmare. Something happening to your kid. And then he said the next 2 weeks were a blur. Were they a blur for you?
Yeah, so I actually didn't wake up and come to until about a week after. They had me in an induced coma, and then after about a week, so my brother was like sitting by my bedside, and he said that a lot I would wake up, ask him what happened, and then he would tell me, and then I'd fall asleep, and I'd wake up and do it all over again. And then about a week later, it happened for the last time. I woke up, asked what happened. They told me, and then I was, kind of relieved, actually.
Relieved? Why?
Yeah, it was a weird one. I had an essay due like a couple days after my accident, and like when my accident initially happened, they told me, I was like, "Oh, sweet, I got extra time," because I hadn't started the essay at all whatsoever, and I was like stressing. Yeah, so when my accident happened initially, I was like, "Well, sweet, I get extra time."
Which, oh my God. And then recently you had said that it's been 14 years or 15 years since being paralyzed.
So it'll be 15 years in March.
And you call it your life anniversary.
Yeah.
Which means
a lot of people in my situation call it their like life day, because when you go from able-bodied to paralyzed, or now like a person with disabilities, and it's such a life change that it truly is like your life day. It's really where your life starts again. You have to really mourn and let go of the person you were and who you were before your injury, because your goals and aspirations completely change. Like I wanted to be a surgeon before my accident, and then after my accident, it's like, okay, well, that's not a reality that I can really go in towards. So yeah, it's kind of a life day because it's like your life really starts. And there's so many things that happen after your injury that kind of change your perspective. So yeah, it's really a profound day of like growth and reborn.
Is there something in the energy around being paralyzed as long as you were not paralyzed? Like this timeline lines right now, the time frames are the same. Is there something energetically that means to you?
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a tough one. Maybe not tough, maybe even like more joyful and happy. I don't know yet. I don't know. Because there will be a big one this coming March. It'll be March 26th. And yeah, because it happened in 2010. And so I'll be 15 years next year for my anniversary. And it's like, yeah, I can't really put into words what that really means because it will be 15 years of being paralyzed as long as 15 years I was able bodied and walking and everything. And I'm almost at the point now where it's like sometimes there's certain memories that I don't even remember from before. Like, I remember a few months ago, I had a dream, and in the dream, I was walking and doing stuff. And I went into the bathroom and I went to go turn the water on the sink. And I couldn't remember which side was cold and which side was hot. And that lets you know how kind of disconnected I am from that person still.
I was going to ask you, it was one of my questions was, do you dream about walking? Do you dream about running? And is it weird when you wake up?
Yeah, I've had a lot of different. I'm never fully walking and never fully paralyzed in any dream I ever have. It's always like I'll be partially moving, or I've had dreams where I'm out playing sports, but I have a backpack on and I still have a ventilator strapped to me.
Hmm.
Or I've had dreams where I'm not on a ventilator, but then I'm like slow, like I'm limping or like struggling to walk, and then but I'm going to play basketball or something. Like I had a really crazy one. I was like running late for a basketball game. It's almost like that dream of like you're running late to a test. That's kind of what it was. I was running late to a game, but then I got there and I was still like partially paralyzed. It was weird.
So, is there ever a day, because I have ups and downs, I have ADHD, so I have highs, I have lows, I have like, depression, it is what it is. What do you do on those days where you're just like, I'm not feeling it today? Like, I just don't want to get up. Are you allowed to like sulk and be in your feelings? Or do you have so many people around you that are on your clock that you're forced to get up, that you have to do the next thing, you have to get ready, you have to get into the chair and out of the bed? Are you allowed a sad day?
I have my foundational routine of like getting up in the morning, doing stretches, and like getting dressed, washing up, getting in my chair. And those things always stay consistent for me. But even once, like, if I have a bad day or something, I'll just still get in my chair. And then when I'm in my chair, I can do this is really where I have my independence. I can move around, I can drive, I can tilt back. So if I want a lazy day or a day where I'm just kind of like not feeling it, I'll tilt my chair back and do what anybody else would do. I might just watch TV all day. I might uh, do some reading, read a book or something, or yeah, just
So you
depends.
allow yourself the grace to feel however you're feeling and to just be. And do you just tell the nurses like, not today? Like, you can check on me, but not making small talk. Let's not even pretend.
Yeah, because I don't really have bad days lately where it's like I'm feeling some type of way about being paralyzed necessarily. It's more so just a day of like maybe my body's hurting more than usual, or maybe I'm having a day where I'm just not. Because, like, I still grieve, I still have ups and downs of life, and just same as anybody else. But it's not usually based on the paralysis aspect.
Well, you just lost your dog General recently, which I'm so sorry about that. We had to put our two dogs down, so I totally get it. And like having these holidays without the dogs is like such a weird experience. So I'm sorry. General wasn't who I met though, right? I met the newer dog.
No, you met, yeah, the newer dog captain, and he's really sweet. He's really emotionally in tune, but he's not. Yeah, he's not as like uh interpersonal as
Hmm.
General was. General was like this force of nature that like lightened up every single room he went in.
Hmm.
Loved people and loved, like, he would always make anybody who like didn't like dogs, they would like G.
So talk to me about the nonprofit, the Drew Crew. Why did we create this? What in you was like, I need to do this for other people? Where did the Drew Crew come from?
So I so after my accident, we had a lot of people in our community because I was kind of a force. It was kind of crazy. So like before my accident, I told you I played sports and did all these activities, and a lot of people knew who I was, and a lot of people even knew who my dad was because my dad is an even bigger force. So
Hmm.
he was like a band dad, a cheer dad with my sister and everything, and then for me having my accident, like everybody knew me somewhere in some way because like I was an athlete, football and basketball. So then a lot of people knew me there. And then I was in the marching band, and that was a whole different faction of people and community. And then I would also like I'd go do ultimate frisbee. I would go do jazz band. I would pop up at robotics club. I would like pop up at anything and everything all the time. I just like doing stuff. And so everybody kind of knew who I was. And then when my accident happened, I remember hearing like hundreds of people were in the waiting room when, uh, like at the hospital. And the hospital was like 45 minutes away from my high school. So to have that kind of response just kind of gives you an idea of how the community was around us. So then at the time, a friend of ours, that was one of the cheer moms, she actually coined the name the Drew Crew and made t-shirts for the Drew Crew. And that was kind of our first fundraiser, was selling those t-shirts to be able to raise money for things I needed early on after my injury. And then we had a few other fundraisers after that. And my dad and my stepmom, Tracy, really took on the force of the nonprofit. My dad didn't really like, he saw, because as you can imagine, it's like, it's such a hard time early on after an injury. There's so many things being thrown your way, whether it's like home renovations or transportation or just me in the hospital, figuring out like what a wheelchair is, figuring out what a trach is, figuring out like how to change the trach. Like my parents had to change my trach so many times before they would let me come home, and so like figuring out the medicals, and then physical therapy, figuring out how to keep me healthy, and just all types of stuff. So then after I got out of the hospital and got back home, we realized that fundraising could be a way for us to really keep the story going and keep the ability to, because like for some people after an injury there's a lot of funds and money available for like nursing care and everything, but because my injury wasn't in a vehicle, it wasn't like car insurance or anything like that. It was in the hallway of my high school, and technically like some people were encouraging us to sue the high school, and we didn't want to do that. It had nothing to do with them, so like it wasn't their fault. And actually, it was just the opposite. My teacher and the deputy liaison really saved my life that day because they gave me CPR while we waited for EMT to get there. And
So
then,
you were actually not breathing? Wow.
no. So then they're doing CPR, making sure to do chest compressions and circulating the blood around my body and oxygen around my body. And because my level was so high at C1, C2, there was a high risk of either dying or having brain injury because of like it being so close to the brainstem. So that's a huge concern. Like, not a lot of people with my high level of injury even survive. A lot of people end up dying. So the fact that they were able to do that right on the spot was huge. Huge.
That's
And
amazing.
I don't know. I don't know what would happen if they didn't do that. So, yeah, I was very lucky in that way. So it's like, okay, we're not going to sue the high school for
Right.
some lump sum for no reason. And
Right.
uh, at the same time, we didn't have money from like an auto accident
Mm-hmm.
and get insurance or sue insurance. Or here in Michigan, you have at the time it was like the
Like no fault insurance, or
no fault,
or like
no
you
fault
made a choice. You tried to do a backflip. It didn't work out. So you're on your own, kid. We love it.
alone completely for all financial issues. And then if you end up making any money, and all of that goes away from your care and takes money from like disability and everything. So it's super complicated being able to like figure out how to get money in this situation. And the best way we found early on was a nonprofit. So
Well, it's also not like they hand you a handbook of like, here's the things that you can do to help yourself, right? So does the Drew Crew help a lot of families that are just new to this experience and have no idea where to start? Especially as parents, like, how do I help my child? How do I learn how to change the trach? How do I do all these things? Do you have a team of people that can help at least tell them what questions to ask and get them started on their way?
right. So a lot of the mentoring comes from me and my dad. And we're always open to talking to any family, especially early on, because you want to be able to catch a family early on in the hospital. We know it's the most difficult time, but we also know it's the most crucial time for before you've created any bad habits, for creating the correct habits to really put in place so that you have a foundation to really help prevent any infections, help prevent any muscle sores and things like that. So then as a nonprofit, we do a lot of mentoring in that way. And then once we get to learn a family and learn their situation, we figure out where we can interject and then help financially.
I know the golf outing is huge for the Drew Crew, but how else can people give throughout the year? Because it's not just the golf outing, right? Like, where can people go to donate if they want to donate to the cause?
Just go to thedrewcrew.org. Our website, thedrewcrew.org, is where you can learn about me, learn about our story, and then also just click on events and raffles if you want to get involved on the website. Events and raffles. We have some really cool raffles going on right now. We have Super Bowl squares. So we do some cool stuff that you can actually get involved. Or if you don't want to do any activities like that, just go and click on donate. And those donations go a long way.
That's amazing. Now let's talk about the podcast. You took a hot minute. You stepped back from, excuse my language, but for a couple of years. Number one, what made you even start it? Because I love that it's very you, right? It's very much Drew. I think when people see the chair, if they even see you in the chair, they probably presume something about you. But this podcast is very you. You curse, you'll drink, and you say exactly what's on your mind. You don't hold back. When you started it, what was the impetus for even starting the podcast? Why were you like, I've got to do something?
So it was really just that, exactly what you're saying, because honestly, in the community around me, and so for the first geez, the first like 7 years, my parents ran the nonprofit. And that while I was just kind of privy to going after my dreams, going after my goals. So I graduated high school. I did marching band in high school. After my accident, I did get into the University of Michigan and went there with a degree in math. I did a lot of like student government and other things on campus for people with disabilities and accessibility on campus. And like I did all that. So then when I graduated high school, or when I graduated from U of M, I it was time for me to take over the nonprofit. And once I was doing that, I was like, okay, because like at the time, through as you can imagine, a teenager or going through college, there was a lot of like resentment towards a lot of the way that people saw me after my accident.
Well, I'm
Because
sure
it was
they make
different.
assumptions. You're different, not capable of doing certain things.
Not so much that.
Really?
Not so much that. The exact opposite. I was
Okay.
put on this pedestal. Yeah, it was like people. It was like people forgot what kind of a and I was before my accident, and I wanted to show them, like, yo, I'm the exact same fucking person after my accident as I was before. And a lot of the time, so like, I had a lot of people after my accident try to say we were friends, and we weren't. I had a lot of people try to say like, "Oh, this inspiration." And I want to be like, "Dude, I was an asshole too.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?" Nobody. And obviously, that changes and evolves as you grow, and you're not that same child anymore. But at the same time, I wanted to show people, like, yo, I am the exact same person. Like, I'm still a human underneath all this. I'm not just this icon. I'm not like we have a nonprofit named after me and stuff. And I wanted to be like, and you guys see the surface. You don't really see who I am really. And I wanted to really show that. If I was going to take over the nonprofit, I wanted to still show some form of humanity and realism in this whole situation, because it's not always pretty. It's not what it's always chalked up to be. So yeah, that's kind of where the idea came from. And then once I started doing it, it really just became a therapeutic process for me to really get my thoughts out and kind of work through my emotions and thoughts and just be able to talk freely. And that's why I named it Excuse My Language, but because yeah, when you're talking about real life and real situations, there's some colorful language that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. How did your dad feel about it? Was he like, "Is this too real?" Or was he like, express yourself, son, do what you need to do?
Yeah, there was probably times where he looked at it as I might have been sharing a little too much, or it might have been too real, because I was doing interviews with people talking about like sex after a spinal cord injury. I talked about real situations. I talked about even
Somebody
like
has to go there, I guess.
yep, I have talked about some interesting situations on my podcast, and it's just real. And it's like I said, it's therapeutic for me to be able to get those thoughts out and really show people. I mean, not even show people. When I do my podcast, it has nothing to do with like trying to educate or show people who I am or anything. It's really just a therapeutic way for me to talk. And then what ends up coming after is people let me know that like, oh, so it's really awesome getting to like know you as a person. So I like that.
Well, and that's really what it is getting to know you as a person. You're funny as fuck. I mean, you actually have a great sense of humor. Yes, there's the motivational part. The latest episode that I was listening to, it's like I needed to hear it today because I'm just having a bad day. Which, like, maybe I sound like a dick because I can walk. I'm not paraplegic. What do you mean you're having a fucking bad day, bitch? But like, I needed to hear the words that you said in this latest episode. So if anybody, it's not just about being paraplegic, I guess I want to say, because it is for everybody. Everybody can listen to it. They can learn something from it. as you're tiptoeing back into the podcast, what is your goal with it? Or is it really just when you're in the mood, you're in the mood. If you have something to say, if you've got something to say, let's have the nurse learn to turn all the stuff on and let's go.
What I'm starting to realize, because like, I forget what the quote is from somebody, but it's more so like, a fool speaks just to be heard, but a wise man speaks when they have something to say. And I'm realizing, while I can't just wait for when I have something to say, but I'm realizing I have a lot more to say than I realize. And I feel like that's true for everybody. We all have a story. We all have an impact in this life. And being able to share that with other people is really cool. But at the same time, what I'm wanting to do going forward is just be authentic and let that truly flow out of me in a authentic way. And I think I'm getting there. I feel pretty good at the moment. And like you said, tiptoeing back into this thing, trying to get back in the swing of like talking on the microphone and camera. Like it's a process. I went back and looked at the last two podcasts I did, and my first reaction was, "Oh my god, these are dog shit." I'm not even like saying anything. But
See,
like,
I needed it. Like I needed that
yeah,
last episode. I was like, oh my God, I felt
right.
it completely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So get ready, because these next few I'm gonna be doing are gonna feel even better, because I'm truly just gonna let my personality shine through the message.
So, two things I want to ask you about because you are funny. Have you ever wanted to do stand-up comedy?
I have.
Okay.
I have. There's been some genuine thoughts of like going and trying it, just because I think it'd be fun. And I'm a huge comedy fan. I listen to comedy all the time. And especially after my accident, I remember the first like probably 2 to 3 weeks when I was in the hospital, people were bringing, and this is going to show my age, but people were bringing like DVD sets of shows. And I told everybody, bring me all the South Park and Family Guy. You absolutely can. And I watched on a loop seasons of those shows, and that was really what got me through that initial like grieving process, because I just wanted the funny. Give me as much funny as possible, and then yeah, it kind of got me out of that tough time.
So, definitely something to keep thinking about because I can absolutely see you doing it. And then the book. We just said everyone has a story to tell. Are you writing a book? Is there a book inside of you? Where do you see like content creation, not just on video, but in book form? Do you see that happening?
So as far as writing that, I have a blog on my website. There's a blog section, and when I have something that is just built up inside me that it takes more formulating than a podcast or anything like that, I will go deep into writing. And I think eventually putting together all the blog posts into a book form, I think that's possible in the future.
I think that would be amazing. So, with content creation, you show a lot of your day, you show a lot of what you do, and a lot of it is also with the physical therapy. Do you really believe that there's a cure? Do you really believe that maybe you could walk again one day? Because you've mentioned that. Is that something that you think about, or you don't keep it in the forefront all the time? It's just something that's always sort of in the back of your mind that like we're working towards something.
So honestly, I would say that's the most forefront of my mind since my injury. And it might sound crazy 14 years later, still having this thought, but I'm 100% in belief that I can get up out of this chair and walk again one day. I go to physical therapy once a week and walk in this walking machine. I do 4 to 5 hours of electric stim every night to make sure my muscles are strong and I don't fatigue and don't have any muscle atrophy. I know that when I went to college, I was a mathematical biology major. I was more so focused on the bioinformatics side and working on research and working on a cure, not just for paralysis, but for any type of disability and things that can actually be worked on. So that was a huge part of me in college and whatnot. And I still believe it's like there's so many research studies and procedures going on right now that have a lot of promise. My whole thing is the problem is they're doing these studies on people. Two things. They're either choosing a person early on after their injury so that they don't have any muscle atrophy yet. And then secondly, if they're doing procedures on people later, they're doing it on people who aren't like me, who haven't kept their body healthy, who haven't done these things. And honestly, they're just not me.
So are you volunteering yourself? There's a study out there, like you're down.
If something comes up that looks like it has promise, that has actual like grounded research, yes. I'm very picky because usually you can only do one of these procedures, but I do think there's something available, whether it's stem cells, whether it's the spinal implanted stimulator. There's a lot of good research going on right now, and I think it's all promising. The one that I'm most interested in is actually like epidural stem cells. I think that has a lot of promise, but yeah, just need someone to take a shot.
So you kind of believe it's going to be a physical, biological way to walk, not an AI bionical way to walk. You don't feel like you're going to be like part computer, part human.
No, I don't want anybody hacking into my brain while I'm trying to do something. No, I personally don't think it's going to be any type of brain implant, but I don't know. You never know.
So when you're making content, are there days that you're just like, I don't even want to show this. Like, I don't want to even do this anymore. Do you just not record on those days? Like, what kind of gets you over those humps? Because it's easy to go, I mean, you have your foundation, you have your systems, you have your schedule, but I know how easy it is to get off that and sort of start to get into the bad habits of not showing up for yourself. What gets you over that hump on those days where you're like, I just don't want to do this?
That's a tough one to answer. Because if you go and look at on my pages, I do take gaps in between stuff and then where I'm not sharing. And it's not because of lack of ideas. It's just I get burnt out. I've gotten burnt out and I do need to do a better job of that because this is something, I know this is something, if I'm able to really be consistent for a long time, this is something that could grow into being something huge.
But I also think in the same vein of being authentic, I think it's okay to go on and say, I'm having a shit day. Like, this is how I'm feeling today. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do the thing. I don't want to do the thing. I just don't. I'm stressed out. I'm burnt out. And like, here we are. Would you consider just being your authentic self? Or do you think that your audience and community expects you to show up in like your happy, positive, I'm motivational way? Like, do you feel like that's the dichotomy that you have to work with every day?
So the part I'm getting more comfortable with, like I have no problem showing my down days or whatever, because anybody who actually is here, my nurses will be the first to tell you, I am that optimistic, positive person all the time anyway. That's just who I am. And even in my down times, that part doesn't go away. I always know that things are going to get better. Things are going to work out. Even if you're going through a tough period, it's life has these webs and flows, these ups and downs. And yeah, it's only just to make you stronger. So I realize that. So I don't have a problem sharing the times when I'm not good. The only problem is when I'm not good. Right now, I'm doing everything on my own. So I don't have a producer. But now the way AI is changing and some of the things you've shown me, I know that I can have some support and make things a little easier so that it's not so daunting doing it all myself all the time.
Well, and you can batch create it, right? So when you're on the high or you have the time, you can batch create during that time. And then on the downtime, you can just sit and edit or have AI edit for you so that you're at least still doing something. You're just not recording on the days where you're just like, I just don't feel like showing up today. You talked about being one of the strongest, was it quadriplegics? Because of all the exercises that you make sure you're doing. The foundations that you mentioned and like showing up for yourself in that way, is it really all because you understand like you have to do these things to survive? Or is it all because I want to walk again, so I know I have to keep my body strong? Like, where does it come from? Right? Like, I don't know that I would have the mental fortitude to do everything that you do every day.
So I'll be completely honest in that really comes. I know how special this is. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's not about doing it for myself. I initially, when I got coined, when the guy that created my therapy started calling me the healthiest quad, he wants to like get me in men's fitness and stuff. And my dad says it a lot. And I'm just like, I don't do it just so I can get these accolades. I do it because I know at some point, if I get a procedure and I show that I can recover and can walk again, I know it'll have a profound impact, not just on me, but everybody else. I will literally have the blueprint to show people this is what you do after a spinal cord injury, and this is how you get someone out of that chair, out of that situation, and you have to keep their body healthy in order to do so. So I understand the magnitude of this. I understand the significance of what we're doing. So I don't take that lightly at all whatsoever, because I know if I'm able to create this blueprint and show people what the effect can be, it could be something that changes things for paralysis forever. It could change the way people see it, and it'll change what people do and what hospitals do and what other medical places do after a spinal cord injury, because I will show them what they have to do.
That's incredible. Oh my God, that's so powerful. The last question I have for you, I saw in one of the videos, you talked about when you're paralyzed and you're in the chair, a lot of the times you become an observer, right? Some people don't even see you, or they look past it because it's too tough for them to comprehend what's going on. You can't necessarily stand up and get involved in a conversation. You're observing a lot. After having observed for the past almost 15 years in the chair, in this new life, what is it that you've learned about the world, humanity, people, life, that you can share with us?
I've learned every single person matters. Every single person has a story. Every single person has these things, this experience, and everybody has something that they can give to those around them. Even if it's just a tiny bit, everybody has something they can give to the morality and the like spiritual tank inside each of us. Each of us have this fulfillment in our heart, what our heart desires and wants to do, in our passion. And every single person really should go after that passion with unapologetic ambition. And I really think that we can get consumed with our selfishness, and when we start to indulge in feeding that selfishness, we forget that each and every person around us is their own person, and that they all are so special. And I've had so many people around me, and I observe all the time, and I just look at like everybody goes through so much, but at the same time, everybody is so similar. And that's why I don't put myself above or think I'm above anybody else. Not anybody can do what I do, but everybody can do something so profound and special in their own right. So, yeah, that's what I can really emphasize.
That was amazing. All right. So check out Drew's podcast, Excuse My Language, but you can find it on his YouTube channel, which is your name, Drew Clayborn. It's very easy. I'll also link it. And then thedrewcrew.org, right? If you want to read his blog, if you want to give, right? and help out. And then also stay apprised of any of the charity events. And of course, the golf outing that everybody talks about. Thank you so much for doing this with me. I really do appreciate it. I know that time and attention is like the biggest thing right now. It's the most valuable thing. And so I appreciate you giving me your time and attention and telling me your story.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and platform to do so.